All right. Welcome back to another episode of Two Plain Sports. Today, we are going to discuss the most important topic of the 15th, which is National Signing Day. Sooners class who ended up signing today and a couple that didn't. Discuss on why they didn't. We'll talk about some transfer portal news, discuss a couple potential Sooners, and then have a little bit of a discussion on NIL because it's been kind of a topic surrounding the recent recruiting in college sports. But before we get into anything, thank you guys for everything. This channel has grown super fast. So 2 weeks ago, we had less than 1,000, and today we're at almost 2,100 subscribers. You all are awesome. You are the reason that we've gotten this far. Thank you for doing that. Keep doing what you're doing. Like the video, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell. And most importantly, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Are you excited about this year's class? Who do you think could be added on? And the Sooners aren't done. We still have a February signing day that we're looking forward to, and potentially someone that joins in January. So let's get started. Today we had 12 players sign their letter of intent, I believe.
13.
13. It was a big day for the Sooners. Brent had a small press conference, but let's go through the list of the players that did end up signing today. So we're going from their highest ranked according to 247. So Gavin Sawchuck, running back out of Colorado. Kobe McKenzie, linebacker, has been in the forefront of the news for Oklahoma recruiting here in the last few days after he flipped from Oklahoma to Texas, back to OU on the right side of the Red River. Jaden Gibson, 6'5" receiver out of Winter Garden, Florida. Nick Evers, quarterback out of Flower Mound, Texas. Jake Taylor, offensive tackle from Nevada. Jacob Sexton, local product from Edmond, Deer Creek to be specific, offensive tackle. Nick Anderson, you may have recognized his last name as his brother is Rodney, a Sooner. Kip Lewis, linebacker out of Texas. Robert Spears Jennings, also a homegrown product from Broken Arrow, plays safety. Jaden Rowe, another homegrown product. Cornerback, really just overall athlete is what he should be. But he's a 3-star out of Tulsa Union. Jason Llewellyn, tight end out of Aledo, Texas. Cedric Roberts, defensive line. I believe he plays in the middle. And then Alton Tarber, defensive line. We talked about him a couple videos ago, 6'1", 305 as an 18-year-old. So pretty good start. And then a couple of guys that are expected to sign but did not put ink to paper today are Caden Helms. He did not sign because school was canceled due to weather, but he is expected to sign probably right after you guys watch this video. Should be today, this morning at around 7:30 Central a.m. I believe is what he said on Twitter, as assuming nothing gets canceled again at his school. And Gentry Williams, which Brum has a little bit more to talk about with him. But again, he's a homegrown product, cornerback, 4-star, probably the biggest name that we got from Oklahoma, and someone that definitely kept us on our heels throughout the recruiting process. But I'll kick it over to Brum. I know he's got a couple more things on those guys that didn't sign today.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just want to say, the fact that OU right now is sitting at number 10, according to 247, I think rivals might have us overall at 13, but still, regardless, for all the turmoil and the turnover and how much chaos has ensued, the fact that OU currently right now, after the first national signing day, is sitting at number 10 has to speak to what Oklahoma's doing and what Venables and Levy and the few other coaches that are on staff. And I know they're trying to fill a few spots, but it speaks volumes. And exactly what Bob Stoops says is one person is not bigger than the program. And this is what I've been trying to say is kids are still going to play for Oklahoma no matter what, if Riley's there or not there. And today it was proven that that's true. I'll say probably my favorite signing is I am pumped about Tarber. I know on 247 it says he's 305, but if you scroll down and a subscriber commented this on one of our last videos that we talked about Tarber, is he actually measured, the measurables on their profile that are verified. His weight is actually like 340 pounds. The guy is massive. I mean, there's no one on the roster that's that size right now. And I know he's a 3-star, but stars don't matter at this point anymore. It's all about what you're going to do on the field once you sign. And we can, we get all excited about these rankings and whatnot. But to have a guy, and when you need to have a goal line stand or something like that, you want a 350-pound body to get in there. And maybe he needs to lose a little bit of weight and put some more muscle on, whatever. The guy's going to be definitely playing well over 300 pounds whenever he starts to see the field. That's probably my favorite. I also really love Nick Anderson and Jaden Gibson getting longer and lankier wide receivers. I'm really excited about that, but enough about that. Do you have a favorite signing before I start talking about Gentry Williams?
I think it's Jaden Rowe because of how athletic this dude is. I'm not like super into watching high school football games, but because he is part of the recruiting class, I watch a little bit of the YouTube videos that Union High School posts from their games. And the dude played on offense for like half the season, and he made it look easy. And he's supposed to be a defensive back. So I know that when he was interviewed today after he signed, he said he was excited because he was going to play with for Brent, and Brent really sold him on the idea of being kind of a utility player. He doesn't really have a position. He'll be at Isaiah Simmons for Oklahoma is kind of what Brent kind of envisions him as. So hopefully he becomes Isaiah Simmons at Oklahoma, because that guy was pretty freaking good in college.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I like that sounding too. It's kind of one of those deals where if just depending on how his body fills out and the weight, and I mean, I see him more in that, that linebacking core, but anytime you got a guy that can play multiple positions, you got to get him on the field. I mean, I look at him as like a Kyle Duggar who plays safety for the New England Patriots that can cover, but is like a hard hitting safety and can go play the run. So that's pretty good to have. Yeah. But Gentry Williams, just a little quick deal. Obviously he didn't sign today. Caden Helms didn't sign, but that's out of his control. But Gentry didn't sign today because he is waiting to see who his defensive back coach is. Now, I don't blame him, because I've been saying it, and I think you've been saying it along with me, is you commit to the head coach, but also the position coach is really who you've got to really jive with and get along with, because you're going to be with him for 3, 4, 5 years, however long you're here. So I don't blame him for waiting. The rumor is that the defensive back coach is currently coaching in the playoffs right now. Who that is, it's tough to say, but I think you and I will both agree that we don't really care which one it is, because they're all great. They'll all be able to coach at an extremely high level, and I think a level that hasn't been seen at Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, if I had to pick, I would pick either the guy from Cincinnati or the guy from Georgia. The only reason I'd take the Cincinnati guy is because he's coached Sauce Gardner. I don't know how familiar anyone is with him or have heard of him, but if I remember the stat correctly, he's only allowed 1 touchdown in his 4-year career at Cincinnati. Pretty good for being at least a 3-year starter, and I think he even played games as a freshman. And then Georgia, I mean, that guy's been recruiting hard. We can talk about them a little later, but that is an amazing recruiting class overall.
Yeah, the Georgia guy is Jamil Adai, I believe that's how you say his name, Jamil Adai. He'd be a huge get. Honestly, if it's one of those 4, I'm not going to be picky. I want him. I mean, I've looked at Jamil Adai's 247 profile and who he's been the main recruiter for, and all I see is 5-star, 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 5-star. So yeah, he would be a massive get, and someone that has shown off, really, shown out. And I think he was also a position coach for West Virginia. So there's a little bit of connection in there. And so just something to keep an eye on. But if it's one of the 4, I don't care. That's all I've really got for the National Signing Day, other than I think the Sooners are going to obviously continue to pursue some kids. They're going to land some more commits. Do you have anything to add?
The last thing for me on coaching, I mean, if any of those 4, I agree with you, are great, and they're all coming from a school that's the culture is defense. it's defense first. The offense is going to do their thing, but we have to focus on defense. So they'll fit right in with what it seems like the culture at Oklahoma is shifting to is defensive minded, tough, gritty. So I'm cool with any of them. It would just be great to get the Georgia one just because of his recruiting profile.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's that. The next thing is transfer portal news. So Oklahoma got some pretty good news today. Bray Walker has removed his name from the transfer portal. He's back at Oklahoma. He was a practice on Saturday, I believe, is what was reported. And then Theo Weiss is also removing his name from the transfer portal, which is not only good because the wide receiver core is now just one person better, another 5-star better, another super lanky dude at 6'5". But if anyone has been keeping up with Caleb Williams and some recent Instagram activity, it seems like Theo Weiss was waiting to see what was going to happen with Caleb. I mean, no one's really been certain on if he's staying, if he's going, and his return may be a sign that Caleb is not really looking anywhere else and is focused on being a Sooner for the rest of his football career.
Yeah, I hope so. And I mean, the longer this has been drawing out, I maybe I'm biased. I know I'm biased, but I just feel like there's not going to be a better landing spot for him because Lebby, granted, he hasn't been, an offensive coordinator for quite as long as what Riley was, but the short time he's been an offensive coordinator for UCF and Ole Miss, they've scored a ton of points.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you can't deny it at this point.
Yeah. And for those people, and our friend and our co-host Brandon was one of them, stressing about, Caleb potentially leaving because he wasn't getting, number one focus from the staff about staying or going, and how they, maybe they shouldn't look at other quarterback recruits. If not only, I mean, I believe that was just crazy from the first place, and I said it whenever he first brought up that point. But if you watched the Prairie podcast today on the 15th, it was Caleb's first interview since entering college, and what I took away from listening to that interview is he is extremely competitive. He has so much belief in his talent, and he knows he's good enough to earn his opportunity and keep it, that he's not scared. He doesn't care if we go get another 5-star. And he never mentioned, he was like trying to be really professional and never said any names, but he pretty much said Brock Vandergrift's decision to be a Sooner originally was not affecting his decision to want to come to Oklahoma, because he mentioned he wanted to be in the SEC. That's something that was kind of motivating for him. It seemed, he again never mentioned schools, but it seemed like Georgia and LSU were the two schools he was really hinting at. He wanted to really potentially commit to, and staff left. And like Brum said, when we were still speculating who the offensive coordinator was going to be, Joe Brady seemed to really get a good relationship. And before I move on, I know his name's Jeff. I saw a lot of those comments. Sorry, I keep saying Joe. It's Jeff. So Joe Brady had a really good relationship with Caleb. And once he left to go to the NFL, it seemed like LSU fell off for Caleb. And then Brock left for Georgia shortly after that, if I recall how the timeline went. So then it kind of opened the door for Caleb to be a scholarship quarterback at OU. It's worked out so far. I don't see why he would leave now, especially with his family now being here. It was awesome to hear how dedicated he was too. The dude was taking 6 high school classes, 5 college classes, doing all the quarterback work and practicing. Like, if that's not a guy you want on your team and want to root for, I don't know who else you'd want to be part of your program.
Yeah, that was a great interview that Hall and Willis did with Williams, and I'm glad we finally got to hear a little bit from Williams. And I know, no matter where he goes, we're going to hear next year. But yeah, that blew my mind that he was doing high school and college classes, which is the first time that's ever happened, obviously because of COVID and weird times and whatever. And just the dedication and 11 classes and waking up and working out. And I feel like I feel like after that, you have so much invested in the school, it would be hard to walk away. And maybe that's just me and being hopeful and naive. But I feel like if you put that much time and effort and you've worked so hard for this quarterback, starting quarterback position at this school, I feel like it'd be really hard to walk away from. But
Yeah. And
I,
something else that I feel like isn't really being considered is his family's in Oklahoma now. Imagine if he did decide to leave, right? I feel like most Oklahoma fans would be like, we hate it, but good luck to wherever you're going. But then there's that small group of Oklahoma fans that would harass the shit out of his family. And that's probably something he's got to consider too, because he loves his family. He doesn't want anything bad to happen to him. And there's always a chance someone's going to ruin it for the entire fan base and going to harass, his mom, his dad, anyone that's related to him. And that's not something he's wanting. Clearly, I mean, I don't think anyone wants that for their family. So it's another
yeah,
aspect that's got to be thought about, not just from us, but for him as well.
yeah, I wonder if his family would pack up and move with him. I don't know.
They would
I would
have
think
to.
so.
Like,
I
I
would.
again, like it's just a small sub. Like, let's say it's 100 people. 100 people are like the representation of OU fan base. 99 or 90 of us would like be like, all right, it sucks for us, but we have a quarterback to hopefully replace him and be just as good, not better for us. And good luck to wherever your journey takes you. Then there's those 10 that are going to harass his family, and they would need to leave Oklahoma, or they're never gonna live in
Hear the end of
peace.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're never going to hear the end of it. But that was a great interview. If you haven't heard it yet, go check it out. But yeah, going back to Theo Weiss coming back, all of a sudden, a position that we were really concerned about as far as depth goes from a concern to a strength. I feel again. You think of Mario Williams, Marvin Mims, Theo Weiss. Now you add Jaden Gibson, Nick Anderson, Cody Jackson. And I'm sure, and Drake Stoops. I'm sure I'm missing
Jalil
one or two.
Farouk.
Farouk, and then even Trayvon West was starting to kind of get some playing time at the end of the season. There's a lot of talent, and I feel like Caleb has to feel like I've got running backs now, and potentially Javante Barnes can be joining the fold with Gavin Sawchuck, and he's got that. He's got wide receivers, and he's got tight end as far as Braden Willis. I believe Willis is still eligible and coming back. I might be wrong on that, but I feel like he's going to come back. But only time will tell. I'm feeling more and more confident every day, but it can change in a heartbeat after the Alamo Bowl.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned position groups that we've been concerned about. Wide receiver was one of them, with how the transfer is going and where this class started before Brent was put in place. Another position we talked about throughout the season that we felt was lacking depth was the linebacker group. And I think this class is addressing it. And we just went through the hard commits and the guys that are going to enroll. There's one guy that we could still potentially add to this class. 4-star line athlete is probably going to be a linebacker out of Kansas. Jaron Kanek, I believe is how you pronounce Kanek.
Kanek, yeah,
something like that. Out of Kansas, dude is super fast. He's really, from what it seems like, he's very well built. Like, he's very explosive athlete, and he would make not just him, but this class of linebackers would put that to maybe be our weakest depth on the defensive side to maybe even our strongest depth on the defensive side of the ball. The line's kind of gone down a little bit because we did have 3 guys leave for the draft, which is great for them. Now we need to refill that. DBs are still good from my point of view. I think their coaching is going to be better this upcoming season and moving forward. Now the linebackers are starting to fill out. We've got a lot of potential talent in that room now.
Yeah, I mean, so we've got 2 signed right now. Kip Lewis, he's 6'1", 200 pounds, and you got Kobe McKenzie, who's 6'2", 245, and Kanek is 6'2", 210. I mean, these kids are seniors in high school. They're going to be able to fill out a lot more Adding a guy that is 6'2", 210 pounds, and can run a 10.37 second 100-meter dash. And to put that into perspective, and I'm not a track guy or anything like that, the world record is 9.58 seconds. So he is less than a second slower than the world record. Like, that is fast for a linebacker. I mean, he's projecting as an outside linebacker. Great ball skills because he played some offense in Hays, Kansas for his high school team, and he pursues the runner really well, and he can blitz well, obviously, because he can shoot up the gap. I think it's telling the fact that he didn't sign today for Clemson. He's convinced that he wants to play for Brent Venables, which I don't blame him. And that's probably his main attraction to Clemson. I think his dream school was Clemson, but I think a big part of that was Brent Venables. And I know Venables has some handshake agreement with Dabo Swinney, because that's the type of guy Venables is, that he won't actively pursue Clemson players. At the end of the day, if he didn't sign, I think Kanak just needs to decommit, and just so Venables feels like, hey, Dabo, I didn't, I'm not doing this. I'm not trying to, do it in spite of you or anything like that. But even if that doesn't happen, at some point you just have to kind of step on toes just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this kid's obviously not sold on Clemson.
Yeah. And other good news in regards to transfer, sorry, I'm going back a little bit here, so they had a press conference today, and Venables did say he's now more open to using the transfer portal to fill out this roster, which is something that we've discussed here a few times. His dislike for the transfer portal and what it's done to college football, and that kind of comes from the same mentality that Dabo has. And Dabo had stuff to say about NIL and recruiting today, how much he has a dislike for it. So I think that's a good shift for him, and I think it's partially due to one, being a first-time head coach. He kind of sees, I understand why Dabo doesn't like it, but we need to fill out our roster and kind of just adjust and do what's best for a program. And I think Lebby has something to do with it too. I think he sees the advantages of it, and Ole Miss wasn't shy, and their way of recruiting. I mean, Lane Kiffin came out and said these kids are literally looking for the place that's going to pay them the most. And Lebby learned a little bit from Kiffin, and I'm sure he's bringing a little bit of that mentality to Oklahoma, and the way he's going to recruit his offensive talent. And I just feel like that's good news to how it's going to play out over the next few weeks and months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. And just one little nugget I forgot. I probably should have said it a little earlier, but we talked about in our last video the potential of Chris McClellan signing with the Sooners. We told you keep your hopes very minimal. Well, we were right. He ended up signing with Florida today. So we can finally close that book, shut it tight, throw it away. It's done. It's probably the best thing that could have ever happened. I wanted to get off that roller coaster.
Yeah, that definitely a nauseating one if you're constantly following that recruiting. But best of luck to Chris. We've said it multiple times. We would love to have him at Oklahoma, but the recruiting roller coaster was getting, out of hand in our opinion. And as talented as he is, you can only take so much from a recruit before you need to move on. But the last thing I think we wanted to talk about is how NIL is affecting college football right now. I mean, I think it's great that Oklahoma is still a top 10 recruiting class. Something that's been in the Twitter sphere, a little bit in the news cycle for college football, is Texas specifically, and how they are filling out their offensive line room by paying these high school kids. They're pretty much saying, come to Texas and it's an easy $50K every year you're here, and you're going to be at Texas, so people are going to pay you more. So you're going to be making more money than your parents by the time you're a freshman, by the time you finish your freshman year.
Yeah, they say it's for your charity, or charity of choice, and
my charity is named Jose Escoto.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. It's weird. And then they've also got another pool of money of over 10 million bucks that's already been pledged for all of the Texas Longhorns athletes. It's just a changing landscape. And, you know, and with this $50,000, Texas has filled out 6 offensive linemen in this 2022 class. 6. So, and granted, that was a weak part of that team last year, and it was very evident when they were playing against other teams. You could see that offensive line struggled. With them getting 6 commits, I mean, this is something that's between OU and Texas. Also, is Devin Campbell came out today. He's number 10 overall player, number 1 interior offensive lineman in the country. He's a 5-star in the 2022 class at Arlington, Texas. 6'3", 310, extremely athletic, great prospect. He put Oklahoma and Texas in his top 2, sorry. And him putting OU and Texas up in his top 2, personally, I am feeling really, really good about the chances of OU landing Campbell because of Texas already having 6 offensive linemen committed. And you've seen a run in the last 3 or 4 days of Texas, kids committing to Texas from the offensive line position. I mean, you think of Neto Mzulu, Kelvin Banks committed. There was a few others that were pretty recent that committed to Texas. And I think that has kind of been filled out. And I think Campbell's going to see an opportunity to become, be a Sooner. That's just something I wanted to throw in there, that the NIL, they filled it up really quick. Maybe does that come and bite him a little bit with Campbell? Campbell might be like, well, I don't want to be the 7th offensive lineman in this class. Then again, he might not care. He might be getting, get enough money and good enough to beat out whoever. Or he goes to Oklahoma and joins a class that's pretty solid as well, but there's not quite as many. And, now you have Bill Bedenbaugh sitting there still, locked in. I think that's part of the reason why he didn't sign, is because he wanted to see how Oklahoma's coaching staff totally fills out and the stability of each program and things like that.
Yeah. And with the NIL, I would like to say I don't blame Texas for doing it because there's no rule against it. If I believe Oklahoma should find a way to use that advantage, to use that to their advantage. I mean, maybe not openly say we're going to give you $50,000 if you play for the University of Oklahoma, but use it to your advantage. And at this point, it's a selling point to going to a big program. Like, hey, you're going to be at Oklahoma. You've got potential to the NFL. You're playing with great coaches. Your head coach is proven to have a success wherever he goes. And hey, we're going to, throw you a little bit of cheese every once in a while so you can so you can stay alive and pay and help your parents if they need any help. But the NCAA, I believe the NCAA is pretty much gonna let this run its course and either ruin college football's recruiting, and maybe it takes a turn for the best and it just helps it. But I believe they've been against paying college kids for eternity. And this year they finally changed their minds. I believe they're just saying, hey, let them get paid. We're going to let this run its course. You guys are going to see that we were right. And in 5 years, once everyone hates that schools can pay, it's pretty much just the highest bidder will get the best players, then we'll do something about it. Maybe we'll put a cap. Maybe we'll just take it away. I don't know. But I wouldn't put it past the NCAA to pretty much just try to make a point by making recruiting a bidding war rather than actually, like Dabo said, focus on education. Because at the end of the day, these kids are still student athletes, and most of them, I think, have aspirations to be, a pro, but it doesn't work for every one of them. And part of their decision, a little bit at least, should be, can I get a good education and end up with a degree from this university after 4 years? I mean, Caleb got 3 degrees. It's clearly worked out for him.
Yeah. I mean, like, the whole point of the NIL is to make a little bit of money, like, sign autographs, do little appearances here, left and right at local restaurants, local whatever. but they didn't set it up to not allow things like this to happen. And it's changing the landscape of college football. I would hate to not be a blue blood school like Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, those type LSU, those types of school with a lot of schools with a lot of money backing them, because you're already at a disadvantage because you were not at a level, as far as brand and TV deals and whatnot, and, being able to showcase your skills. You're now competing against wealthy donors and wealthy athletic programs that you're never going to be able to compete for. And whether that really changes anything, though, because when you think about it, competing for the college football playoffs this year, yeah, we had a few new schools pop in. Cincinnati, but Michigan, they have a lot of money too. They're a blue blood. So the big schools are already dominating as it is. But now it's going to be this added effect of, do we have more kids go to like Jackson State? Like we saw the number one kid went today because he got to deal with Barstool Sports and Deion Sanders and all that stuff. Do we start seeing one or two here and there? I just think at the end of the day, I get taking the money now, like that kid did, like $1 million or $2 million, whatever it was. But if you're that good of an athlete and you can get that money right now, that's a fraction of what you can make in the NFL if you have the best facilities and the best coaches. So you're taking the money now when you could really cash your check potentially for 20, 30, 40 million dollars in 3 or 4 years. But you could get hurt and then you never see a dime. So I see taking the money now, it's for sure, but he's not going to get the development out of Jackson State that he would at an Oklahoma or Alabama or Texas or somewhere like that. That's just my opinion, and I might be wrong, and he's probably going to be good enough to make the NFL regardless, but not every number one athlete does. And if you're not in a great setup, it might not work out for you.
Yeah, it's definitely fair to say that college football is not going to be the same until the NCAA decides to do something about it. And they probably never will. They're why are they even there? They're just there to ruin college football or athletic programs if they decide that they didn't follow some small fictional rule like Oklahoma State getting their postseason ban for things 3 years ago. But do you have anything? Let's wrap it up. Do you have anything else you want to add?
The last thing I'll say is on top of that is I think within the next 10 years, we're going to see the NCAA and college football break apart. I think college football is going to be its own entity and have more of an NFL style management, and you're going to see some structural changes. But overall, I think great day for the Sooners. I think you're going to see a few kids that OU is going to be able to pick up over the next few months that you might not think that they could, with the kids that are still unsigned. Venables is going to finish with a top 10 class, and which that's a win in my opinion. And follow us on our Twitter and Instagram as well.
Yes, definitely. So if you made it to the end, do what Brum said. The links are in the description. Twitter, Instagram, Spotify now. If you don't like looking at us, or if you don't really enjoy using the YouTube app that much, go check us out on Spotify. Also, Two Plain Sports, also in the description to make it easy for you. Subscribe on there. Download the content. Then it's easy for you to listen to on your drive to work, while you're working out. Whatever you want to do when you listen to us, up to you. But thank you all for making it this far. We appreciate it. Like I said at the beginning, you guys are awesome for helping us get this far. We didn't think it was going to grow this much, especially in how quickly it has been. So we very much appreciate it. Over the last couple of weeks, Brandon has given you guys challenges at the end of the video because we love to see who's made it this far. Last time it was Spencer Rattler, and I think he kind of fumbled some words and people thought he also meant put Rattler Spencer. It was kind of funny to see all those comments, but this time I'm going to taking one of your guys' suggestions that requested a hashtag. This time, hashtag ready for takeoff. We're going to be a little cheesy. We've got planes. So let's do that. Hashtag ready for takeoff. If you made it this far, comment that down below. Let us know what you think about the recruiting class. Do you think we're going to add any more players? Who would you like to see? And what do you think about the NIL? Is it ruining college sports or is it just making it better? Thank you guys all for watching. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.